Hi, I'm Eric. I'm adding a preamble to this video. This video is meant to supplement the issue description for GitHub issue number 1122, which is documenting all the events that we support for Pewter extensions. So if you didn't come here from GitHub, you wouldn't have that context, but now you do. Anyhow, on to the video. Documenting events. You'll find the events documentation for Pewter extensions in doc, contributors, extensions. Then you'll find events.md. This file is generated. It's generated using the script called gen.js, and it reads this file events.json.js, which describes the events Pewter supports in a structured format. This just ensures that the documentation stays consistent, but this isn't taken from the code. So we need to look through and find all the events that Pewter's backend might emit, so extensions can listen to them. Extension developers can know that they exist. I'm going to add a file system event as an example. One easy way to find events is to type emit and a left parenthesis, and then you'll find there's a bunch of results here. I have to zoom out to see the one I want, I think. If I look at ll make dir, you can see there's one there. So this is one I was looking at earlier. And we can see it takes the event service and it calls emit. And it turns out there is an event that is fired whenever a directory is created. If you were looking at the documentation right now, you wouldn't know that. So that's the problem that we're trying to solve. I'm going to go ahead and add that to the events.json.js file I mentioned earlier. I'll do that on the left so that my face doesn't cover it. And I'll add it like this, just following the same format as what's up there. Adding core to the beginning. So once an event goes from backend to an extension, it's going to be prefixed with core. So it's core.fs.create.directory. And then I'll write a description. Copilot wrote a description for me. This is accurate. And then we need to add some properties. So if we look up here, property is a name, and then it has type, mutability, summary. I'm just going to copy a property from up here so that I can be sure it's consistent. The properties provided by the event are sometimes a little tricky to find. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to listen to that event in an extension. Pewter has a file in here under extensions called testx. I think so anyway. No, I think I just have this locally. You can create a file under extensions, and then it'll automatically be loaded as an extension. So in this case, I've already added this here, extension.on, and then the string for the extension I'm listening to. Remember to prefix core. And then I'm logging that I got this event and the contents of the event. So let's run that in Pewter itself, which I think I have over here. I'm just going to wait for the Pewter logo to show up. There it is. I'm going to create a directory. And if I scroll up, I can see my console log. It says got this event, and I can see it has a couple of properties. It has node, and it has context. Node is of type fsNode context. Every time you have a folder or a file in Pewter's backend, it's going to be an instance of fsNode context. So now I can go ahead and document these properties. The type is going to be fsNode context. Mutability, no effect. Some events, you can change properties on the event object, and then whatever fired the event is going to be informed about that, or it'll notice the change. One example is uh, the Wisp service, which provides access to a Wisp server that's configured. That's for TCP over WebSockets. This fires an event called getPolicy, and listeners can set allow to false. So allow would be a mutable property. That's what that means. In this case, neither of these properties are mutable. Is that supposed to be an object? Yes. So these should be curly braces. Mutability, no effect. Summary, the directory that was created. Is summary uppercased? It's not. I'll just keep that consistent then. There's no notes over here for this one. The other thing we have is a context. For context, you don't really need to provide any information, just type context. Context is passed to most things. Most of the time you have a context. It contains values that are dynamically scoped. Things like the user or the actor that is performing an action, that will be in context. So now I'm going to generate the documentation. This is done by navigating to the doc contributors extensions directory and okay, there we go. And I'm going to run gen.js. If I run it just as is, I'll get the output of the document that will be created as text. This could be useful for debugging. I can see that I have an undefined in here somewhere. I think that's because the generator doesn't actually support not having a summary. So I'm just going to write current context. I'll probably have that fixed in the near future. Mutability is undefined, so we don't support not specifying that either. So there we go. Looks like we have some sensible documentation for that, and now I can use a file redirect to events.md. So that's all you need to do, and then when you open events.md, you will see this is updated. I have some white space changes because I made modifications to the script, but generally this is the only change you'll see is the event that you added, and now it will show up on our GitHub wiki after it's regenerated, and it shows up in here as well. I'm not seeing it in the preview for some reason. I'm not sure what's up with that. But yeah, it should be in this preview as well. When you're looking through events, it's important to note that sometimes you'll see services.emit. Be careful about this. Services is the services container. It has its own event bus for initialization events, which are different from events that go through Pewter's event service during runtime. So for example, Pewter's event service gets boot events. It listens to boot events because it's a service. So that's something to be careful about. If you see SVC underscore event, this SVC underscore convention is one used consistently throughout the backend to indicate that this is the event service or this is a service. So you'll see this.services.getEvent. You'll see something like that. Anytime it's event service. So among things that we haven't documented, then you can see we have upload progress, whenever a file hash is generated for caching, whenever a file is written. I forget what pending file is when a file is created. Events broadcasted to other instances of Pewter, validation for prompts, usage reporting, checking usage, when something's done executing, when the file system is ready. These are events on the services container. right? So not relevant to this documentation. When the system wants to validate an IP, so you can write an extension that hooks into that and does some check with that IP address. Uh, when a new icon is generated for an app, when an app is renamed, and that's just, as you can see, scratching the surface. So there's a lot of work to do here. Um, I highly advise automation. I'm going to be probably working on some of the important ones manually as time goes on. So if anyone picks up this issue, just let me know on the issue thread, which is going to be linked in this description, or you might be watching this video because you clicked it from the issue. Either way, yeah, that's how you document events on Pewter.